How's it going, guys? Andy here from wholesale-help.com. And in today's video, my word, my friends, in today's video, we have an excellent, if I say so myself, an excellent video interview with Mr. Kevin Blackburn from the Life Success Engineer community. Now, Kevin very kindly agreed to jump on a live call with me to chat about his work with virtual assistants, because this is something that particularly interests me at the moment, because I'm looking to spend more time away from the UK at the moment. I want to be traveling, be more location independent, and so I need some help to take care of some of the things I do in my business day to day that other people can handle on my behalf, so that my Amazon business runs smoothly whilst I'm doing other things. Now, this is fantastic if you're looking to scale and grow your business exponentially in the future, because I'm sure you're aware, if you're building your own Amazon business, you're finding some success, things are going well, there will become a stage where you hit a bottleneck. You only have a finite amount of time in the day, and whether you are doing online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, you're scanning for wholesale deals, whatever your mode of reselling on Amazon, there will come a time where there's only so much you can do in a day. But the beauty of virtual assistants is you can employ them to work in your business very cheaply, incredibly cheaply, much cheaper than I realized, probably much cheaper than you realized, that can really scale your business massively, because once you get it set up, then it's just a case of turning on the switch, and it's like having full-time staff working for you. So I'm absolutely pumped to give this a go in my business. I'm certainly going to be taking this further, and the reservations I've had in the past about taking on virtual assistants are totally nullified when using the strategy that Kevin puts forth in this video interview. So hang on all the way to the end here, because this is a very interesting interview. Kevin gives some fantastic tips about working with virtual assistants, what they can do for your business, and actually you'll hear at the end, he will explain a way where you can more or less plug and play a virtual assistant into your business, fully trained and ready to go on the Amazon reselling format. It really is very exciting for me especially, and what I'm going to be doing is documenting my journey as I integrate virtual assistants into my own business. So if you haven't done so already, subscribe for more of these videos, as I will be uploading more videos about virtual assistants and how they're going to benefit my business, and I'll be documenting that process as we go through that. But for right now, let me introduce to you Kevin Blackburn from Life Success Engineer. Enjoy. Alrighty, Kevin, thanks for coming on. It's good to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me, Andy. It's great to be with you.
Excellent. So today I want to talk to you about virtual assistants. So it's kind of especially interesting for me, because I want to do some traveling some more this coming up. In fact, over the winter, I want to spend a bit more time out of the country. So I really wanted to talk to you about how you got into working with virtual assistants, what they do for you, and what you can offer me as someone who wants to maybe look to automate my business a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I think that's the best thing about virtual assistants. It allows you to travel. It allows you to be free to travel. As long as you got an internet connection, you've got your laptop, then you can be anywhere in the world. Just to give you a quick example, I'm going on holiday on Monday, and we have a full team of virtual assistants that is still going to be sourcing products for us. They're still going to be reviewing all our products, purchasing all our products to be shipped here to the warehouse, where we've got two girls, our warehouse processors, who's going to ship them to Amazon on our behalf. So that is really I guess the biggest benefit of using virtual assistants, because you can, instead of, I mean, me and you, we're based in the UK, instead of spending maybe, £7.50, £8 per hour here, having a group of people here in the office, I can have a team out in India, I can have a team out in the Philippines, where their wages are they're much lower, as low as $3.33 an hour. Our sourcing team they work full time all day, every day, and it's for $300 per month. So there's a lot of benefits to virtual assistants. And ultimately, you as the business owner wanting to travel, it's going to keep your expenses as low as possible, as well as recruiting some really clever people. That I would say that as well. There's some incredibly talented people in the likes of India and the Philippines that can not only just make it easier for you in terms of like expenses, but can also propel your business in terms of the skills that they have.
That's awesome. So am I right in thinking if you wanted to, could you just literally pack your bags now and leave and go away and travel for like 3 or 4, 5 months, and your business would still work as if you were right there?
Absolutely. And on Monday, this Monday coming up, we're actually going to be going away. We've got a 2-week trip, which is going to be great. But we could travel because we don't actually have to be here. We've got 2 physical employees here at the warehouse that need to be here to ship our products. But everything else has been designed in a way to be done virtually. Everything from, like I said, the sourcing, the purchasing, the account management on Amazon, the repricing, absolutely everything, even customer messages and our administration, so asking for VAT receipts to stores and wholesalers, etc. So everything is virtual for us, which is fantastic.
That's crazy. Because the thing is, I've looked at virtual assistants in the past. I've used them for different things, and my experience with virtual assistants in the past is the amount of time I've taken to try and explain to them, show them, teach them how to do what I want them to do. It ends up taking me more time than it would for me to do it in the first place. So I've always struggled to actually find that perfect situation. I found one VA that actually was really good, really responsive. And within about 3 months, they had other commitments and they went away and I lost them. So this was a really big thing for me. I've struggled in the past with them. And when I heard what you were doing with a virtual assistants, I'm like, okay, I'm in. Tell me all about this, because I know how much they can do for my business. I know what I want them to do for my business. I've always wanted to keep that control in the past and to be hands-on with my business. But myself and my wife, we've got to that sort of point where we want to spend longer periods out of the UK. Let's face it, the UK winters aren't the nicest. They're pretty diabolical. And so what we want to do, we want to travel throughout the winter, come back in the summer, re-engage with the business and sort of stock up. But in the meantime, we want to be able to travel and still keep in touch with the business and still have things going on. So that's if you can actually provide a solution to that, that would be amazing for me. Just for me on my own, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, this is just to give you a bit of, a bit of background, a bit of context of what I've actually done, because this isn't just an overnight sort of, I got a virtual assistant and then now my business is automated. We've been recruiting virtual assistants since 2015. We've got now a full team of virtual assistants virtually, and I've learned some lessons along the way on how to manage those virtual assistants, how to recruit those virtual assistants. So the first senior virtual assistant, and what I mean by senior is this is a person that's going to make purchasing decisions for me, that's actually going to be now spending money on my behalf. That was a really a difficult hurdle for myself as a business owner to overcome, because we want to have full control of the business, and we want to, especially when it comes to your money and especially when it comes to the selection of your product, that is literally it's the failure or success of your business. So that process actually took me a good 6 months to really build that relationship with a virtual assistant to the point where I could then trust that assistant. Now, there's a number of things you can do in terms of training. So you're not going sort of back and forth. A couple of great resources that I would recommend to yourself and anybody that may be watching this is a book called Work the System and another book called The E-Myth Revisited. They're the two books in terms of business systems and outsourcing. They're the two books that I really recommend to anybody, because that's going to teach you how to create working procedures. And back in 2016, I started to create video capturing, video screens, instructions on how to do specific tasks. So instead of going back and forth saying, please do this task, and then a virtual assistant saying, how do I do this task? And then you explain how to do it, and then they don't fully know how to do it. And it's just this real drawn out process of back and forth. I don't know what I'm doing. You just create the procedure once, you create the video, and then that is done. Then it's like, there's the video, that's the outcome, that's what I want to do. And you can explain things. You can literally do a screen capture saying, look at this, and this is why we're doing this. And things like that make this process so much more effective. So that's 100% what I would say to anybody when it comes to outsourcing specific tasks. Another thing that was critical for me is the skills I was looking for, because I knew the value of, because I was using Google Sheets and I was using Excel, and we're a numbers business, margins and return on investments. And I knew I wanted a specific trait on, I wanted an Excel expert, somebody that was so much more superior than me when it comes to functions and what I wanted these sheets to do. And that was a very, very specific criteria for me, because I knew I wanted to see specific things in my business, just like we all will do. We want to see a specific metric or a number, or tell me how much money I've spent on this month, or whatever it may be. And you can hire somebody who's an expert in that field. So every one of my senior assistants are now, they're Excel experts. Right. So it's a case of, you as the business owner, you don't have to know all the skills. I guess a great example would be Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook. He's just been in the headlines this year, and he's in front of Congress saying, I'll get back to you because my team, I'll speak to my team and I'll get back to you on this. And that's because even Mark Zuckerberg, he doesn't know everything in his business, because he's got systems, he's got people in place to do that. And the same thing applies to in your business. If you start to recruit virtual assistants and you're looking for what I call superstars in your business.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So that's what you've done, is be able to build the team around you, and different VAs will have different tasks. And
exactly.
So what would you say in our business with Amazon, what is the best combination? Can you start with just one, or do you recommend having two to do separate tasks? How can you get started using VAs, and what's the best way to do that?
Well, for me, it all comes down to time. When I quit my job back in 2015, my idea was, the frustration that I had in my job was I was working so much. So for me, going into this business, the idea was, really, I want to have my time. So I split up the business. So online arbitrage, that's what I mainly do. Mm-hmm. And splitting up the business into the different stages of the business, I started to rank, well, how much time do I spend sourcing? How much time do I spend purchasing? How much time do I spend doing repricing? And I basically did a bit of a hierarchy of where I'm spending most of my time. And then I focused in on those stages where I spend most of my time. So the first one was actually preparation of my product. I would purchase the products, they'd be sent to our home, and we would spend, excuse me, all night just packaging all the products. So for me, that was the first thing. And then I got my partner involved in that. So that's not actually a virtual assistant, that's more physically here in the UK. But then the second thing was sourcing. I was spending hours every day just going through just site after site, sourcing as many products as I possibly could. And I knew that was a major bottleneck for me, because working full-time at the time, I was full-time as an electrical engineer and part-time trying to do this side hustle, if you like. And I was spending 4 hours a night doing sourcing. So that was logically the first virtual assistant that I got, was a team member sourcer in my business. And then all of a sudden, I started getting this influx of products, which was fantastic for me. All of a sudden, I had more products to purchase than I ever had before. So
Hmm.
I would recommend to do the same for you, for anybody. Always do the hierarchy of where you're spending most of your time. That
Hmm.
then led into me doing the reviewing of the product. So I had 4 virtual assistants at this point sending me products every single day, like 10 products a day.
Yeah.
And I was spending all my time now reviewing those products and purchasing those products. So I then
Yeah.
outsourced the reviewing of those products. So what
Hmm.
essentially happened 6 months later, I went from I was no longer preparing my products. I was no longer sourcing my products. I was no longer reviewing my products. All I
Hmm.
was doing was I was logging onto my store account and I was just making the purchase.
Hmm.
So that's what I would recommend to yourself, Andy. I would recommend that to anybody. Just
Hmm.
write down all the stages and all the tasks to your business, and
Yeah.
then simply put in a timestamp of how long it takes you every single day, and then
Hmm.
focus in on the top those top tasks that are spending you're
Yeah.
spending maybe hours every single day
Hmm.
just to keep on top of.
Yeah. I definitely think a lot of people that do online arbitrage and retail arbitrage can definitely identify with the amount of time that you do actually have to invest to do that. If you do have a job, there's a lot of evenings involved, a lot of late nights actually getting through that. And yeah, there's great money, but there's always a bottleneck. If there is a human physical person involved, there's going to be a bottleneck, and there's so much you can do. So I definitely think there's a lot of legs in the idea of being able to firstly detach yourself away from the most the most time consuming part of what you do, and then that will then release more time for you to make more money, which will then mean you can bring on other VAs, and then I guess it grows quite exponentially from there.
It does, and the one of the most important things is when you start. Sorry about the background noise there. One of the most important things when it comes to outsourcing is us, we like to be in control of all the tasks. And I
Mm-hmm.
used to be like this. I wanted to be in control of the purchasing of the products in my business because
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid. I was thinking to myself, well, what if a virtual assistant in India, one, spends all my money on wrong products or commits some sort of credit card fraud or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But what I recognized is it's very, very important to put things in what's called key performance indicators in your business. And
Mm-hmm.
what key performance indicators in your business are is if you take a role, it doesn't matter what role it is in any business, and look at what that role is supposed to do for you, what the outcome of that role is supposed to be, then you can set some numbers where you are going to measure that person. So I'll give you an example when it comes to sourcing profitable products. So a criteria for my sources are I would like 10 products per day. I would like the reports to be completed by 10 a.m. in the morning. I would
Mm-hmm.
like to ideally have it only from one store. So I'm only creating the one basket.
Yeah.
Another one would be I would like to have above 30% return on investment, ideally above 50%. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and these are all numbers. These are all numbers that tell you whether that virtual assistant is doing a good job or not, regardless
Yeah.
of what they've done in the day, regardless of the issues they may have experienced. At the end of the day, it's a case of the result in your business. How many
Mm-hmm.
products have you purchased today?
Yeah.
And I've used this philosophy throughout my entire operations for every single role. It doesn't matter what role you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting numbers on your role because numbers are never going to lie. While
Yeah.
we're on holiday over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be sent in our team Slack communications channel how many products we are shipping from this warehouse every single day. And that
Mm-hmm.
number is going to tell me everything I need to know. If
Yeah.
I'm expecting to ship 600 units from this warehouse every day, and then I get a message saying we only shipped 100 units, I already know something went wrong that day. Where was
Yeah.
it? Was it in the purchasing? Was it in the, what, did we have an issue in the warehouse? Was there an issue in deliveries? All these things just from a single number. So that's what I recommend to anybody. Um, Come up with key performance indicators, and that's going to show you whether you are one healthy in your business. Because I guess the most common key performance indicators for all of us is sales, your revenue. You
Yeah.
know, if and revenue and profit. If you are if you're selling £100,000 a month, that is, Amazon are going to give you that number. That's how much you've sold today. But what you don't see is that's made up from how many products you've sourced, how many products you've purchased from that sourcing, how many units you've shipped that day, how many, for example, have you had any performance notifications that day, the health and safety of your Amazon account. As we know, it's very, very important to keep that safe. So all these things, I've got key performance indicators throughout my entire business, and every single one of them is going to tell me if I'm going in the right direction or do I need to investigate.
That's amazing. That sounds like exactly what you need to be able to take it from a one-man band, maybe doing a side hustle, making some money, you understand the process, but now you want to kick on to the next stage, maybe take it full time. This sounds exactly what you need to do to be able to expand without actually having to physically take on staff and deal with pensions and holidays and all that sort of tax issues, when you could actually outsource that and bring in VAs in that way. And actually expand your business while still probably working full time. They can be sourcing for you and reviewing and things like that. So that sounds ideal. So from what I get from what you said, Kev, is if you could start ideally with like one guy sourcing for you full time, do you need the other guy reviewing full time, or is there scope for other tasks? For that guy, is a full-time position reviewing, or how does that work?
Yeah, it all really depends on how you want to run your business. So for me, the senior assistant, the reviewer in my business, there's a lot of different tasks. There's the customer messages. There's the seller feedback. There's all these different tasks where you're spending your time. So, for example, I don't know how often you're looking on your Seller Central account to see whether you've got a customer message or you've got some negative feedback or something. But I recognized myself, I was just logging onto my account and I was spending 30 minutes a day just randomly looking at, there's my customer messages and there's my seller account feedback. It's still 100%. And I was essentially just wasting time. So my senior assistant, and this is what I would recommend for anybody that is looking to hire anybody, is just come up with all the list of tasks that you do, and then you can then start to give and offload those tasks away from you. Sourcing is more of a full-time position, because the sort of the copy paste, the manual sourcing, it takes time. You know, I'm a part of a virtual assistant pool. So basically what it is we have 5 virtual assistants, but it's pooled with another seller that's got 5 virtual assistants, and we basically share each other's deals. It's basically we are minimizing the expenses, but it's a full-time job. And then the senior assistant is not, you can review a list of products within 20 minutes. And then it's a case of what else can you get them doing? So there's reprice or express to do. There's a lot of tasks that you can be outsourcing, which is ultimately going to give you your time back.
Yep. Excellent. Okay. So if someone wants to get started with VAs, like I said in the past, it's been quite a mission, actually. The initial starting off and breaking that traction and getting to know these people and working with them and everything else, that's always the headache. So you've created a training service for VAs, which is what I'm really interested in. Tell me more about how that works. You're willing to do, you've got the processes to train the VAs and specifically for the Amazon tasks, so you can present someone with a ready trained, ready to go virtual assistant. Is that right?
Exactly. So what I recognized when I started my YouTube channel and I was sort of sharing the ins and outs of my online arbitrage business, I started to get messages from people saying, "Oh, I'd really like a virtual assistant." And for you know, I've got so many videos on my channel on how to do this and how to do that. And I started to get comments saying, I really want you to train a virtual assistant on my behalf. Because it's time consuming. You've got to work with virtual assistants. You've got to invest the time, as we've already said in this call. So what I did is I created a service called Online Arbitrage Services, and that is basically it gives us the opportunity to work with sellers that are interested in ultimately outsourcing for a senior assistant, for example, and getting your time back. So the way it works is if you place an order for a senior assistant, everybody runs their business. Everybody's unique. The way you want your business to run is going to be unique to each individual seller. And we recognize that. So what we did was we get an order, we fill out we've got a questionnaire, which is basically allowing us to get you to give us all the information that we need about how you run your business, what does your team look like right now, what is exactly you want your virtual assistant to do. And what we do, we don't just get this questionnaire and sort of say, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. We invite you into a private Slack team, and that is our support Slack team, where we recognize, and I recognize, that this is a process where it's not just going to take 1 week or 2 weeks. It's going to take it's going to take some time. So a part of this support service is you come into the Slack team, you are in communication with our team. Then when we've trained your virtual assistant, you get access to the details of that virtual assistant. You introduce yourself, you introduce that virtual assistant into your operations. And how it then works is my interest is in you. My interest is in if you've got any issues whatsoever with your virtual assistant, touch wood, up until this point, we've not had any issues. I'm there for you. That's what the support's all about. That's what this period's all about. It's that transition period where we can talk to you and we can support you on working with that virtual assistant. I'm in that chat. I've got my operations manager, who's basically my operations manager, Harry. He was my first virtual assistant. And as we continue to expand, he's now my operations manager. So he's gone through every single role within my business, which has allowed us to be able to train other people. Right. So that's essentially how it works.
That's amazing. So you've got virtual assistants training your virtual assistants.
Basically, yeah.
That's amazing. I love it. I love it.
But the thing is, what I started to do right at the beginning is I had working procedures for everything. You know, as simple as how do you read camel, camel, camel? How do you read keeper? How do you upload and create a shipment? I've got procedures for absolutely everything. So what I did is we use these procedures, so you don't have to go to Upwork. You don't have to put a post on Upwork saying, I'm looking for a virtual assistant to source profitable products. And then these assistants apply for your position. And then you're having to teach them how to read keeper or read camel, camel, camel. You don't, or what is the buy box? You don't have to teach them all that. We've already created all the templates. We've already got all the knowledge to be able to train on your behalf, which saves you time. And it saves you that headache of trying to go back and forth and why aren't they understanding what I'm trying to say to this person? And if you know what I mean.
There's so much time involved in that. I mean, just those few examples that you suggest, you know, what is Amazon? What is a buy box? What is anything? You have to start from absolute scratch and go through those procedures. And also you've got the experience to know what qualifications and what skills those VAs will need, so you can cherry pick those VAs with those sort of skills. So that on its own is really vital, because the quality of the VAs I imagine you're bringing in is probably a lot higher than just starting out and say, you know, where'd you start? There's so many there. There's so many that want your business. So, you know, where'd you start? And it's just to be able to get that initial part done and sorted and say, okay, here is your tailor-made virtual assistant that is trained and ready to go with your business. is, that's fantastic. It's it's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, one thing that I always do say, and I think it applies in sort of companies in the UK. If a company is recruiting a new member of staff for a specific position, people apply for this position. Somebody may get the job, and then they have to go through training, and it takes time to go through that process. We recognize that as well. Like, what I always say is that this is, at the end of the day, it's another person on the other end of the keyboard. There's somebody else in India or the Philippines. It's another person. They need training. As much as we want to build the business and be successful in the business, we also have to appreciate that things do take time, and it's about building the relationship. Like, for me, when it came to like outsourcing purchasing, I'm now going to give somebody, it's the classic example. I'm now going to give somebody I guess the keys to spending hundreds and thousands of pounds on our behalf. You've got to, you've got to build that relationship. You've got to build that trust.
Yeah.
And the one thing that we absolutely do, and the one thing that is one of my core values, is trust, communication. And making, because there's nothing worse than having a virtual assistant that you are trying to get in communication with, and you're not getting a reply, or you don't know what is happening with this virtual assistant. So, I recognize that because I've gone through that. I've experienced that myself. So, and this is where the key performance indicators comes in, and the training, and it's so much involved, but this is where it's not just a click of a button and then you get an email address and a contact name. This is why you're in communication with myself. You're in communication with my team. We are back and forward. You know where we are. We can get on the call. We can get on a Skype call, and we can talk about what we need to do, where you need to go. And because a lot of the things that I experienced throughout my growth, I didn't have anybody really to model. It was very much trial and error. It was very much like, what do I need to see in my business, and how can I make that happen? So I get a lot of customers. They'll say to me, what else can a senior assistant do? And then I'll say, well, you can get them to do your Repricer Express. You don't have to do Repricer Express, and they'll be like, oh, that's fantastic. Like, I spend an hour alone just on Repricer Express. And I'm like, well, you can get a virtual assistant to do that on your behalf. So I think the service is so much more than just, here's a virtual assistant. It's about ultimately what you want to experience in your business, which is the freedom, which is going to allow you to travel. In your case, travel with your wife for months out of the year. Because as we already said, the UK is beautiful weather right now, but in the winter, it's not that great at all.
It's really not. It's really not. It's 30 degrees in my office right now, and I'm sweating like mad. But in a few more months, it's going to be freezing, and I'm going to be swearing. So I'm out of here. I think you can definitely help me do that. This is really amazing. I mean, this is exactly the sort of thing that's going to really benefit my business. I know I'm going to document this process on YouTube and show how I get on in actually bringing in virtual assistants into my business. I'm looking forward to that journey and understanding how that works. But I really love the structure with the Slack communications. You're not just bringing in virtual assistants, you're bringing in procedures and ways to communicate with them. And there's so much more than just someone to help you out. It's someone to help you out, and also structure and organizing it in a way that is seamless and going to work
scalable.
effectively. And
it's very, very important. I mean, that is ultimately the foundations to the business has to be scalable, because there's a big difference between shipping maybe a box to shipping 15, 20 boxes per day. It's a bulky process, and it's a very complex process. And somebody like yourself, Andy, who's in wholesale, and I would always say, I'd also say private label. I would also say any type of business that is online can be split up in this way that you outsource elements that is taking your time. I'll give you an example. Just the brand itself, my life success engineer brand. You know, I'm now using virtual assistants to create. For example, I create the video, and then I don't need to create the blog article. A virtual assistant can create that blog article for me. I don't need to upload my podcast. A virtual assistant can upload my podcast. And it's ultimately about leverage. It's ultimately about you getting as much done as possible and growing as much as you can every day, while doing as little as possible.
Yeah, love it. I love it. I'm really excited about this. I know I want to be respectful of your time. We've got to get going, but I'm really impressed. I know you've got the training services. I'll put a link in the description box below if anyone else wants to have a go at this. I'm certainly going to be jumping in with both feet, and I'm looking forward to that journey. And as I say, I'll keep the YouTube community updated on how I'm getting on with that. I'll do some more updates about how that process goes and how I can integrate them into my own business. But if anyone else wants to jump on and chat to Kev about this, then there'll be a link below and that will tell you a little bit more about his training services and what you can and what Kev and his business can do for you. So that's pretty much it. I think we better crack on. Is there any other additional things, comments or notes you want to put in at the end here before we wrap it up?
No, just thank you for your time, Andy. I appreciate it. I always like to talk to you, and for anybody that's potentially interested in learning more about virtual assistants, etc. I do have I think I've got over 700 videos on my YouTube channel now, which is crazy. And there's a lot. If you just put in virtual assistant and life success engineer and YouTube, you're going to come up with all sorts of different topics that may be useful to you in your business. So yeah, thanks very much.
No worries. Great. Well, thanks again, Kev, for being here. It's been really good talking to you. I've learned a load already, and I'm looking forward to that journey and integrating virtual assistants into my business over the next 6 months. So thanks again, and I'm sure we'll catch up with you very soon.
Thank you, Andy. Take care.
Cheers.